welcome back.
Hello and welcome to Nintendo Nostalgia. I am your host, Josh, and today I am here on my own with another little mini episode here. We are trying out some different things with the show. So for the time being, we want to give you a little more of a quick and short approach, perhaps is the word for it. So I want to jump on here and tackle one older game that I don't think the rest really have much nostalgia for, so to speak. Or I'm not even sure if they've played it, to be honest with you. But I wanted to bring it up. I know there's a few out there that seem to be fans of it, other than myself. That is Adventures in the Magic Kingdom for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now, before we get too far into that, again, this is sort of one of those, just a mini episode, so to speak. So I want it to be evergreen. So like in a year or two, this can still be relevant for whoever wants to listen to it. So I'm not really going to get into radical rexing or anything else. I just want to take you all through some of what this game is about, the different levels of it, so to speak. We're pretty much going to go all the way through it. It's not going to take too long. There's not a whole lot to it, but I wanted to cover it for you guys. And I think that's it. Let's go ahead and get started. Guys, so Adventures in the Magic Kingdom. This is one of those Disney games that Capcom worked on back in the late 80s, early 90s. This game specifically came out for the NES in North America in June of 1990. I don't have an exact date here, but that's what I am seeing everywhere I look. I'm also seeing it in Australia sometime in 1992, and in Europe on December the 10th, 1992. So this was not in Japan at all, kind of oddly enough, considering it was developed in Japan. Granted, the parks that this is inspired by are both in the U.S. So this game, if you look at the box art, if we sort of had a video of this, it would be a little easier to describe. But basically, on the front of it is Cinderella's castle. This is, for you all who do not know, this is actually in Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida, or in Kissimmee, Florida. Now, this game in particular, though, once you get into it, once you look at the map, it's sort of based more around Disneyland, which is in Anaheim, California. And that's the original Disney park that opened in 1955. Walt Disney World opened in 1971. So it's sort of a mix between the two, but from what I have heard, the development team actually had visited Anaheim to see their park sort of for inspiration. So I would say the gameplay itself is a little more that way. Honestly, though, all 5 attractions that are included are in both parks to this day. So it kind of fits for both. For myself, I've been to Walt Disney World a good bit of times through the years, on and off. I've never been to land. I'd like to be, but it's pretty stinking far away. Walt Disney World is already about 12 hours away as it is. So I'm not sure what land is, but one of these days I'd love to make it there. Anyway, with this one, when you first started up, Goofy has left behind the keys to the castle, which they call the Enchanted Castle, I believe in the game itself and in the instruction manual, sort of to make it generic, so to speak, so it doesn't look like it's leaning too heavily, for the East Coast or the West Coast parks, respectively. So basically what we have to do is find these 6 keys around the park. There are 5 attractions to find them in, and the 6th one is through a bunch of trivia questions. So when you first start the game up there and you really get going, you are playing as sort of this generic boy. You can name him whatever you want. He's wearing like a big cowboy hat for some reason, but it works. Of course, you start out in Main Street, USA. And you can sort of see, if you look at the map, it's the top of building, so it is top down, this overworld anyway. You can sort of see where things are supposed to be, like in the real world Main Street. There's like a little first aid icon to the right. There's a barbershop pole, there's ice cream, there's books and candy. It almost looks like if you were playing an RPG and you were looking for an inn or something like that. Though, unfortunately, these don't really do anything other than for aesthetics. Now, throughout the park here, again, I do recommend you pull up a picture of the map for this one to fully understand it well. But the castle is right there in the middle. It's, again, one of those things where it sort of leans towards Disneyland's castle, which is Sleeping Beauty's castle, but it could kind of be either. I always like to picture the Cinderella's just because I'm familiar with Walt Disney World. But to the left here, down at the very bottom of the map, if you look, it looks to be what would be like sort of the, I'm going to say like Adventureland, like where Jungle Cruise is. I'm assuming, I believe I've heard that they were talking about adding more attractions, and I would venture to guess that Jungle Cruise would have been one of them that sadly did not make it, because I love that attraction. Another one looks to be Small World. We might talk about that here in a bit. But first one you would come up on if you go to the left would be Pirates of the Caribbean, or Pirates of the Caribbean. Depends on the day of the week, depending on how I pronounce it. So when you go in here, all 5 of these attractions are a bit different than each other. This is one of the 2 side scrollers. So this one is basically a 2D side scroller where you start out in a boat and you just go forward a little bit and you're looking for, I forget the exact number, but you're looking to help out villagers, to save a certain number of villagers, not a whole lot of them, and light this fire at the very end like a beacon. So you have to make it around all these pirates, throwing cannonballs at you, shooting cannonballs at you, throwing barrels out of windows, just generally trying to run into you while you are finding these villagers, and also looking for the one candle in the level, which is kind of easy to pass up. It's in like this underground section, and if you go up the first ladder you see, you're going to pass it up. You can make it back. So it's not too strict. You may have to backtrack a little bit on this one, especially if you miss that candle. So once you do eventually make it through, of course, you will get the first key, and it shoots you back out to the map. That is about all there is to this game generally. So then you just go up to the next attraction, which if you are going clockwise from there, just straight up north, would be the Haunted Mansion. So quick note, I love all of these rides anyway. Autopia is just okay. But Haunted Mansion is like my favorite theme park attraction ever. And I personally like how they did this. I wish the music was Grim Grinning Ghost, sort of like in an 8-bit version. Sadly, it is not. It's something original, I believe. But it's fine. It works. Anyhow, when you go in here, this is the other side scroller. So in here is a little more, I want to say traditional. There's not really anything you're looking for. You're just trying to make it to the goal. It's definitely not like a Mario stage, though. There is, you do have weapons. You have candles, multiple candles you can collect as you go. You can run out of them. To hoard off zombies, ghosts, or anything else that comes at you. There is some neat like mirrors that when you walk past, there's a ghost that shows up, sort of like how the hitchhiking ghost do the same to you in the actual attraction in the Disney parks. What else is there? There's chandeliers dropping. There's the ballroom scene, for those familiar with that. So there's a lot of nods toward the real life attraction, which is awesome to me. Now, it gets a little harder as you go, as there is a point where you don't only have to worry about your hits, but you also have to worry about falling quite a bit in this level later on. You're riding on like this ghostly chair, and let's just say there's a lot of books that start getting thrown at you. It can go downhill real fast. Thankfully, even if you run out of extra lives, this game does just sort of start you at the front of Main Street, and you don't really lose like any of your keys or anything. So it's no huge deal. Unlike something like other Capcom games like Mega Man or something. Well, I guess that actually does something similar. But now with this level, once you do get through it, then there is one boss in this level. It's the only boss in the game, really. There is a ghost at the end of it. He's not too difficult as long as you keep your distance and start throwing candles at him like a madman. And once you get through there, back out in the park, you'll see sort of behind Haunted Mansion, I believe, is Tom Sawyer Island. Roughly, I guess, where it would be at Disneyland. It's not exactly behind it, but set up closer to Disneyland than Disney World is. Anyhow, you keep going to the right just a little bit. Behind the castle in this version of the park is Big Thunder Mountain. Now this one, I love the ride. It is one of the best rides at Disney World. This one's not really my favorite in this game, just because there seems to be sort of a luck factor to it. I have beat this game a couple times, but this one, it's not necessarily the hardest. It's just sort of frustrating because you sort of have to memorize the track. So there's like 4 endings to it. There's station 1, 2, 3, and 4. It seems to change maybe every time you start the game or reset the game, depending on, like, and Mickey will say at the beginning, hey, you need to get to station 3 or 1 or 4 or whatever. So it's not always the same from my experience. But he will let you know which one you're going for. The thing is, like, if you manage to make it all the way through the track, you were sort of heading towards the screen in the train, so you can't see a whole lot in front of you. If you manage to get around all of the sections where the track will just end without you being able to do much about it other than slam on the brakes and slowly die, you manage to get around all the rocks, which this is another one you have like 3 hits in. You can still land at the wrong station and you lose a life. You have to start over. So that kind of sucks. It's still pretty cool. It can be pretty fun. It's not like super, super frustrating. I don't think anything here really is. But then, of course, once you do get the right station, you will be getting the 3rd key. One thing I actually want to go back on, specifically for Haunted Mansion and Pirates, now that I think about it. You can collect these stars throughout all the attractions, I believe, except for Space Mountain. And if you hit select, you can give yourself an extra life. You can give yourself a hit. You can freeze enemies. There's actually an invincibility button as well. These don't work in every attraction, oddly enough, though. Big Thunder Mountain is one of those where you do have hits, but select does nothing. So you can't, like, get your hits back like you can in those. So that kind of sucks. But moving along here, away from Thunder Mountain, if we keep going clockwise, you will pass up Small World, which looks like you can enter it, sort of, but you cannot. So keep on going, and you'll make it to Autopia. Now, at Walt Disney World, if you have been there, you will know this as Tomorrowland Speedway. This one's sort of the easiest, I would say, of the bunch, if you know what you're doing. You've sort of got different gears as you're starting out. I just played this like a week ago, and I still don't know which one for sure did it, but I believe it's A or up will sort of put you into the next gear. And then the B button is the brake. And basically, it says you have to win a race, but you don't really have to win a race. You just got to get to the end before you run out of time, or before you run off a cliff or something like that. So there's some bridges you'll have to cross. There is some jumps you'll have to cross the river. There's, I know at least once you'll have to slam on the brakes to keep from running off of it. Not really a drawbridge. It's one that pops out from the other side. So it's a little top-down driving game. It's pretty fun. Not my favorite attraction in real life, but that's not important. But once you get that one done, that would be key number 4. Leaving us to the last attraction in the game, Space Mountain, which on the way to there, you will pass up the Astro Orbiters. Anyhow, once you go into Space Mountain, this one's sort of the most simple, I would say, of the games. Awesome ride in real life. On a side note, now in here, you're trying to get to the end of this course. All you really see is stars, and it tells you which area, I guess, you're in, A through F. You're trying to get to F. So basically all there is to it, though. Things will pop up on the screen, but if you just watch the bottom, it's going to show you some arrows that you have to hit pretty quickly. It's kind of like a quick time event mini game. And all it is either the arrows or A or B to shoot at, like, asteroids and stuff that's coming at you. Not a whole lot to that, but once you get that done, which isn't necessarily the easiest, it can get a little intense by the end of it. Once you get through that, that is key number 5, leaving you for key number 6, the last one, which, again, you can get these in any order you want to. Now, for this one, there are guests, sort of, or maybe they're cast members, I don't know, but they're placed throughout the park here and there, and they will ask you a decent variety of questions. So some of these are, what's the word for it? I guess a little more, you wouldn't really get unless you're a real Disney nerd, kind of like myself. And even with me, there are some that are kind of outlandish. Some are really easy. and you don't really know what you're going to get. Even if you go up to the same person on 2 different playthroughs, you might get different questions, which I really like, particularly because I sort of like going back to this one and just playing around every once in a while. Now, as I say that, I want to pull up a couple questions here just to sort of give you an idea of what you might be running into. So one of them is, what year did the Mickey Mouse comic begin? Now, I'm looking at these online, so I don't have all of the multiple choices in front of me. But that's one of them that is kind of hard to actually come up with. Another one is like, what is the name of Donald Duck's uncle? That one's not too hard. Where does the story of Dumbo take place? What year did Disneyland first open? I don't want to give you the answer to these just in case, by the way. Where was Davy Crockett born? Where is the largest Magic Kingdom? So that's worded a little funny. To clear up a little bit of the confusion on that, in Walt Disney World, there are 4 main theme parks, one of them being Magic Kingdom, which is sort of like Disneyland in California, the original. Confusing thing is, Disneyland has also been referred to as the Magic Kingdom, not like the name of it, but sort of a title for it, or sort of a way to describe it, I guess. So I'm not exactly sure how they mean that. So yeah, just to give you a few questions there. Another one is, who is Pinocchio's father? Once you do answer these, you will have to find the next person. They will point out where that is. So they'll say, hey, I heard this person might know something. They're next to the castle. Eventually, you will get through and get that last key. So really, guys, once you get to that point, once you have all the keys, all you have to do is walk up to the castle, and it will play a nice little cutscene at the end and drop you on an end screen, which you can't really get out of unless you hit reset or power it off or something. So that's basically all there is to it. It's not super long. I can see where I myself had gotten stuck on a couple things. The first time I beat it, it took me a little over an hour. I think there was a couple places in particular I got stuck at for a time or two, but it's not that bad, especially once you learn it. And I sort of like the variety in it. I don't think it's too like super unfair difficult, but I also don't think it's too easy to be boring or, what have you on that. I like it. I'm a little surprised I haven't heard more people talk about it in the past or bring it up, or if it's sort of be on someone's favorite list. I myself, of course, am a Nintendo and a Disney nerd, especially the Disney parks. So it sticks out to me, and I very much enjoy it. But yeah, maybe if you get the chance, if you have a way to, go give this a shot, even if you're not real familiar with the parks. I think it's a pretty fun game, and especially if you are familiar with the parks, I think you'll get a good kick out of it, like I have as well. So I've also actually streamed this a couple times. Go check that out. Shoot me a message if you're interested. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot of games like this, unfortunately, after it. One other one I can think of where you can walk around the park, and there's some pretty decently fun mini games, is the Disneyland Adventures that originally came out, I think, in 2011, and then they brought it back out on Xbox One. It was on Xbox 360 for the Kinect. Now you can use as a controller for it, so not Nintendo there, but just to throw that out. It's pretty fun with my kid anyway, but it's not bad. I do like the idea of being able to visit a real world place like this, one of my favorite places in the world, in a video game at home, in sort of a different light. And it is sort of a picture in history, since this is the Disney parks, and probably around the time I was born in 89 or something like that. Of course, a lot of things have changed since then. Funny enough, though, all the attractions here are still there in both Disneyland and Walt Disney World, at least in the U.S. parks. There's, I think, different variations on some of these in different parks. I'm not going to get into all of that for this podcast, but that is about it for today, guys. I know this is just a short episode. We're still working on some things for the show, and I hope you guys do like this. Let us know if you like this sort of format, if you like these quick episodes, us just sort of going over and covering things like topics like this quickly. Go check this game out if you can. And of course, you can always find us pretty much everywhere on social media. Twitter at Nintendo_NOS. Facebook, Nintendo Nostalgia. Check out our Nintendo Nostalgia group on Facebook if you have not. I know Facebook can be a bit of a pain at times, but our group is a pretty safe place to go hang out and talk Nintendo, all things around that. So that is it for this time, guys, and we will see you next time. Bye. Keep on going, and you'll make it to Autopia. I cannot say that correctly for some reason.